Everyone, it is Brenda Quintana here, and today I am going to be stamping some note cards. I used to stamp note cards a lot. They used to be kind of anchoring my blog week on Mondays. I used to call this segment Minute Mondays, and I kind of got away from it for a while. I don't know why. It just kind of dropped off my schedule, and now I've kind of realized that it is kind of important to have some simple note cards to start the week off, because we all have stamp sets and we often love the really complicated cards, but there's a lot of us that, or you might be a beginner, or you might need to stamp a fast card. So what do you do then? What you have this stamp set and you feel like you can only stamp complicated things with it. So today I'm going to show you how to stamp some note cards using the Yummy Christmas stamp set, and I have two other things I'm going to be doing with the stamp set this week. In the US, we have American Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday, so I'm going to be taking a little break in the second half of the week, but I want to show you tomorrow I'll be doing my Casing Tuesday card with Yummy Christmas, and on Wednesday I'm going to be doing a 3D with the Yummy Christmas stamp set. So I hope to show you this week that you can start off simple, do a card, and then also do a 3D all with the same stamp set. And hello Sonia and Bear Blue for joining me today. Oh, and all the way from Tennessee. I used to live in Tennessee. I used to live in Memphis for 12 years. Kind of crazy, actually, if you think about it. This Canadian girl moving down to Tennessee, and now we're up here in Boston. Never would have thought where my life would have taken me over the years, but I'm grateful to have been able to live in different places. I think it is so great. It opens the mind. I got to meet a whole bunch of different people, and just goes to show you sometimes we can be different, but we can always find something that we have in common. I don't think I've ever met someone that I haven't been able to find something in common with. All right, I'm going to start stamping. Oh, and someone from Ohio, and I should have said Sonia's from Phoenix, so that's really cool. We've got different parts of the country being represented here. Okay, let me switch my cameras and show you my cards. So now keep in mind, these are note cards. They are simple note cards, but we get to color on them, which I always think is kind of fun. My first one is using the Christmas trees. The second one is using the holly and berries. And the last one, of course, is using the signature stamp from the stamp set, the little gingerbread house. Now, this is the Yummy Christmas stamp set. It comes in the holiday catalog, and in the holiday catalog you won't see the die that actually matches it, because the die matches, actually I should have pulled that out. I'm going to grab that right now. I'll grab the stamp set and the bundle. Where are you? So there's a bundle out of the annual catalog, and it is called Cuckoo for You. And so it is bundled together, but the die set from Cuckoo for You matches Yummy Christmas. It cuts this out, it cuts the little candy out. So this is kind of cool. It cuts out the deer from Cuckoo for You, but it's the same shape as the holly. So this one will cut out the holly. So there's quite a few that will transition over, and oh, we've got the little candy here. So that cuts out the candy as well. So it's kind of neat that you can use the same die from the annual catalog to cut out Yummy Christmas. And if you don't know Cuckoo for You, I did a video on this card already, but it makes this cute little pop-up element for the front of the card. So this is a card I made probably several months ago. Just look it up on my blog, type in Cuckoo for You, and you'll find the video for that. But anyway, if you like this set or already have it, I really recommend getting Yummy Christmas because I'm pretty sure this stamp set will not carry over, so you'll want to get it before the end of December. And the die will be available as part of the annual catalog offering, so well into spring. So you can always pick up the die later, but for my 3D project on Wednesday, I will be using the die, so it's helpful. You could freehand cut it, but it's going to save you a lot of time if you have the die. So I just wanted to point those out real quick. So let's jump in with the note cards. And what I did, since I'm coloring these with Stampin' Blends, they're an alcohol marker, so they tend to bleed through. So they wouldn't bleed through to the back. I've cut some little whisper white pieces that are just a little bit shy of the note card size. These are our whisper white note cards and envelopes. They're great because they come packaged with the envelopes. The note cards are pre-scored, so when you get this package, you're just ready to go and you can stamp right away. If you're not going to be using Stampin' Blends, you can stamp right on the note cards. But for me, since I'm using the Stampin' Blends, I am going to be cutting these just a little bit shorter. So this one's 4 7/8 by 3 3/8, and I did that for all 3 of the note cards. And I'll start off, I'm going to do this little tree card because I want to show you. I need to switch my colors out. I grabbed the wrong color. I have Call Me Clover here, and I wanted to show you how this card could be completely different than the Yummy Christmas stamp set, because I think sometimes when we get the stamp set, all we see is the gingerbread house and we don't see the potential for creating a completely different looking card. So I'm just going to start off by inking the little tree, and I'm going to stamp this one. I measured this earlier. It's about 3/8 of an inch from the side and about 1/2 an inch from the bottom if you want exact measurements. But basically, I'm just kind of starting over here in the corner. Then the next tree, I'm just going to move up just a little bit. And then finally, this last tree, I'm going to move back down here. So I'm just basically going down, up, down. And then I'm going to take this little stamp, and I like what they did here. They put wishing you a, and then there's a big blank, and then Christmas. So you don't have to line up these little tiny stamps. They're lined up, and then you put a word in the center. So the word that you put in the center can be a different color. So I'm just going to come down here. I'm lining up my Christmas. Sorry if I'm putting my head in the way. Let me stand up. That way I won't do that. So I'm just going to line up my Christmas with the little trunk right there, like that. And then I'm going to choose Happy, and I'll use Real Red for that. I have some more people that have joined me, someone from California and someone from Washington. That's really cool. When I see Washington, I always think of my family who lives in Kelowna, British Columbia. So we sometimes travel through Washington to get up to Kelowna. Like we'll fly into Seattle and drive up. So I really like Washington. The topography is a little bit similar. I'm inking up Happy with Real Red. And I need to stand up so I get a bird's eye view coming down. Sometimes I like to stamp standing. So I'm just going to come in there and see how nicely that fits right between the two lines. And that way you can do it in a different color very, very easily. So this one, I'll show you how I colored it. I used not shaded spruce. This one is Call Me Clover Light, Real Red Light, and Soft Suede Light. So I'll just start off. I'm going to use the bullet tip of my Call Me Clover, and I'm just coming in. I'm just going to show you how to do one tree so you get the gist. This would also be like a fun project. Like if you did the stamping, then you could get your kids to do the coloring. If you were making a bunch of these Christmas cards, you know, and then they could like sign it like on the back of the card saying colored by, and then they could write their name. That would be kind of fun. And then I'll use the bullet tip for the red as well. And I'm just going to come in and hit the centers of these little dots. And you would do that for each of those trees. And then the soft suede light, you come in and just color the trick like that. And so once you've done them for all three, then you can, I'll just set this aside. We're going to adhere all of these right at the very end onto the note card. So let me set this aside for a moment and let me do card number 2. So I'm starting off with a Whisper white piece that is the same size as I had before. And then I also cut a scrap piece of Whisper white. And I am going to stamp the same thing, wishing you a happy Christmas. So I will grab my Call Me Clover again. And I'm just going to stamp this kind of in the center towards one side. I'm going to be punching this out with the story label punch. So that's why I'm stamping it on a scrap piece. I'll come in with my red. And I'm going to have to stand up to do this. Ink, ink, ink. And I'll put happy right down there. We'll use the story label punch and then just kind of center this in the punch. That looks good. And so now I'm going to just plop this right down here on the middle. Okay. And then I'm going to put myself a little pencil mark where this kind of divots in. And those are just going to be some little marks that are going to help me align my stamps as I stamp them. And I'm going to use this holly stamp. So I'm going to ink it up in green. And so I'm just going to kind of aim it towards the pencil. I want it tucked under a little bit. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. And I'm going to stamp this over here, kind of just nesting in the leaves a bit. And then for this one, I'll have it come out just a little bit like that. Doesn't look very good right now, does it? And that's okay, because it will look better in the end. That's my goal. And I've kind of covered up the pencil mark with the ink, so I won't even have to erase it. That's a little side bonus. All right. Okay, so I've got my little thing stamped. Let me put my real red away too, because I will stick my fingers in it otherwise. So now when we plop this back on here, you can kind of see it will look pretty good, even though it looked really bad before. It looks pretty good, doesn't it? So I'm going to look here. I just need to color this one leaf. I don't need to color these berries here. So I'm going to take my brush tip now, and I'm just going to come in and color these leaves. I like this one because it really looks very different than the gingerbread house. And it's nice. Now I've incorporated a punch. The punch is like, you know, you can use it with different stamp set. If you don't have this punch, you could look for a punch that was maybe a similar shape in your collection if you have already some punches. If not, I really like the shape of this punch. It's a nice handy label punch. And you can see how it really makes a difference, because right now with the holly leaves the way they look right now, it looks like I really made a mistake on this card. Like, it doesn't look quite right, does it? So let me just finish the leaves. And then you can come in with, I'm going to cheat and use the brush tip with the real red and just come in real quick and color those little berries. I think this one is going to be covered. Yeah. I'm trying to save myself a little time because some of them are actually covered up. Okay, so now I'm going to take some dimensionals and they're over here. And I'm going to pop some on the back of this little guy here. About 4 will probably be good just to kind of keep it balanced and supported. I always tend to want to throw away my dimensionals. It's such a weird thing, but that is what I... It's weird. I've found dimensionals in my trash bin afterwards. So I have to be careful I don't throw them away. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of see if I can get this back to center. Doesn't matter if it's not quite centered. But there it is. A little label with some holly on the outside just makes a little pretty little card, and using kind of small stamps, but they really spread out nicely to make it look a little larger. So that is that one. Now let's go to the last card. And again, I use the same size Whisper White layer, cut a little bit smaller than the front of the note card. This time we're going to use Early Espresso. And I'm going to get my big stamp inked up. I like to have this one face up. It's a little easier to ink up and see where this little ink pad's going than if I did it the reverse. All right, so with this one, I want it centered from side to side and about, I would say maybe, let me make sure that's straight. I would say maybe 3/4 of an inch from the top. And I'm gonna give it a good press standing up and putting some weight on it because it is a big stamp and I want a really good impression. See, isn't that cool? And then down at the bottom, I almost did 1 inch here. I'd probably move this up just a little bit if I were to do it again. If I was making a lot of these, I would put these stamps on the Stamparatus, and then that way you'd be sure to have the correct position each time. That's what I would do if I was doing a lot of them. I'm just kind of eyeballing here, or you could make yourself a pencil mark too. That always works. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use this Wishing You a Blank Christmas, and I'll put it right underneath there. And then this time I'm going to use Yummy because we have a gingerbread house and it actually kind of makes a lot of sense. Whereas the other ones, Wishing You a Happy Christmas, because it didn't look quite like a treat, like a cookie or something that you could eat, it would just kind of make a little bit more sense. So this time I'm putting Yummy down there. Okay, so that's it for the stamping. Now we need to color this, and I pulled out 5 colors for this. So I would start off with my crumb cake, and I will use, you can use the brush tip in some areas, but in others you're gonna have to be really careful because there are like a lot of little tiny places to get in. So it's probably just easier to start off with this bullet tip and just color in between. Now, when you're doing this big colored image, some people love, love, love to color. And this really is a stamp set for people who love to color, because you could stamp it like in a color like red or green, and then just, you know, leave it as is, and that's perfectly fine. But this stamp set just begs for someone to color the images. So if you have, maybe you have some kids that are, you know, patient with coloring, this would be the stamp set that would be perfect for them to color. Or I know a lot of adults who like to color too, you know, adult coloring books and stuff. So, you know, if you love to color, I would stamp a bunch of these, and then sit down in front of the TV or sit down somewhere, you know, where you can hear nice music or maybe listen to an audiobook, and then just spend your time coloring away on this. So I'm just gonna, I won't do this whole thing, but I'll show you how this one side kind of looks. So there I've kind of got the coloring coming all the way around. I'm omitting certain things like these little white accents, which would be icing. You can also do the roof. So let's do a little bit of the roof here. And you could do the roof in a different color too. I just kind of went with the thought that this is a gingerbread house, and you know, I will do it all kind of in a gingerbread sort of look. Okay, so let's bring in some red now, and I'll use my bullet tip again. We'll start off with this candy cane, and I'll just alternate coming down here, and then I'll repeat the pattern the same way. In this case, I kind of like the candy cane to be consistent, so that one would be colored. I'd do the little dots on the wreath here to make them little berries. And the bow on the wreath is going to be red as well. The other thing, and on the original card, I didn't do red and white striped candies, but I think now I will. I kind of realized I should have maybe left a little bit of white space on my candies. I colored them all red. And I thought afterwards it does look a little bit too red. So I'll just kind of alternate doing opposites. So you can continue doing that. I'll do the little red little dots for the gingerbread man. And then I'll bring in my green, which is the Call Me Clover Light, and I'll come in and I'll do the wreath. And I'm leaving the outside white because that's the icing, the royal icing, right? And so it makes a lot of sense that there's a little hint of white in amongst all the little decorations. I really like the way they designed this stamp set. And I'm going to do the little gumdrops down here, green. You could get much more colorful than I'm getting. Like your kids would probably choose more colors. I'm kind of being boring and adult about it. I'll do the green doorknob. And then, let's see, what else have I missed? Oh, you know, I would also do the door in crumb cake. So let me fill in the door, very least. The alcohol marker is really forgiving because you can blend out those little brush strokes because, yeah, I'm kind of doing this haphazardly and quickly. Who here likes Stampin' Blends? I love Stampin' Blends. Since they came out, that's pretty much all I use, because for a while we just didn't have any alcohol markers. Maybe my resolution for the new year would be to like change up my coloring techniques a little bit. I've gotten a little boring. Okay, and there's the door. And then let's do the little gingerbread man, and I chose soft suede light for him. And you're going to keep some of the little accents a little white, or I will keep them white. You could change them out and do them in a different color. So I'll just come around. It's just sometimes helpful to see how someone else has colored something, because that's kind of half the battle when we're designing things is, you know, how would you color this image? So it's just kind of helpful to have an idea of like where to start. And I took Smoky Slate Light, and I'm just adding just a little shading in between the sidewalk here just to give a little contrast, and to pop the windows a bit, I just shaded the panes in the smoky slate as well. And the center of the wreath, I probably should have done, open this up, I should have done that in crumb cake as well. So there's kind of the half finished little gingerbread house. And so then how I would finish these off is I grabbed some note cards already and I folded them. And then I'll just take some Tombow. And you want to use a pretty light hand with your Tombow. You don't want to be like really goopy. And this Tombow is almost empty, so it doesn't produce like a really thick stream anyway. But if you have a full Tombow, just be careful. Use a light hand with that. And then I'm just going to center this on the front of the note card. And there should just be like a 1/16 of an inch peeking out. It actually makes the card look a little nicer too, to have just like another little layer on top of it. And then I'll come over here and do this card. Now I would come back in and finish my coloring, but I just wanted you to get an idea of how I would color them. This one's completely colored, because I couldn't stick the little punch shape on top until I had colored everything. So there's that one. And then there's this one, and this one really needs a bit more coloring. And then just center that right on top of there. The glue gives me a little bit of time to play around. Okay, so if I have finished coloring all of these, go back to my original cards, this is what they look like. So these are just samples. These weren't hard at all, do you think? They weren't really hard. They were just really simple, and it's a nice, fun, easy way, especially if you're not going to be using Stampin' Blends. If you're using watercolor pencils or blender pens, then you don't need the extra layer of Whisper White. You can just use the note cards as they are and just stamp directly right on the note cards. But these are just cute little cards. Have your kids color them or spend time coloring with them. And it's just a great way to start off the week with an easier type of note card. So let me go back over here. What did you think? Do you like simple note cards, or do you find them hard? I know a lot of people find note cards really difficult to design because you can't rely on all the other layers that you would on a more complex card to give the wow factor. So you have to, the simple stamping just kind of has to speak for itself. So sometimes people have a really hard time designing because they keep wanting to add more and more. But you know what? Nothing wrong with a cute, simple note card. Anyone would be happy to receive a little card in the mail. We get too much stuff in the mail that isn't fun. So, you know, just a cute little note card is it's just easy and fun. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's Minute Monday segment. And tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing my Casing Tuesday card, and that is tomorrow. We will release the card that we are copying, and if you want to join us for that, check in tomorrow. I'll have a link to our Facebook group. We had a whole bunch of people join us last week. Oh my gosh. I was like accepting invitations to join our group all last week. Someone had posted about our group on a different group, and that had triggered a whole bunch of new people. And I'm so glad, because I think it's a great idea that we all make over a card. So that's kind of fun. If you need any of the supplies I talked about today, check out my blog link below. It will take you to my blog post, and that has a supply list at the bottom. And as always, I reward my customers with a free tutorial that it's not available on the internet. I haven't publicly released it. It's an exclusive tutorial. So you can choose one of my tutorials, and if you spend over $75, I always send out a little free gift. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Let me see what Sonia said. She said, I send note cards to certain people and I use them to tuck in gifts. Yeah, they're great, you know, and they're fully mailable in the US. They are the right size, so that's kind of fun. Oh, and my friend Donna is here. Oh, that's so awesome. Donna lives all the way down in Australia, and we do business training together. And she's just getting into doing YouTube lives as well. So it's so cool that she's here to join me. And you know, we're very opposite in time zones, and we did training today earlier, and it was in the middle of the night for her. Poor girl, she has to get up super early in the morning to catch that. But I'm so glad she could join me. Oh, and I have Andrea from Tacoma, Washington. I love Washington. It's just so close to where I used to grow up. All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me, and I hope you'll join me tomorrow, or you can catch my recording. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.